Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 807, written by NortherNori. 2 hours of our time was stolen. I have a missing time story from a few years ago. We, partner and I, were visiting for Christmas, and on the day we were supposed to be at my aunt's house around 1 p.m., we left where we were staying at 12:30 p.m. and made one stop at a gas station to buy drinks, which took about 5 minutes, and headed to our destination. The drive is 15 minutes, maybe 20 if you get stuck behind some slow cars. When we were almost to the house, I got a call from my sister asking where we were and that they were all waiting for us to arrive to eat. I told her we were just coming down the hill, thinking that maybe we were a few minutes late, and she was overreacting. I hung up, looked at the time on my phone, and it was a little after 3 p.m. There's absolutely no way it took that long to get there. The weather was beautiful, no clouds, no bad conditions, and no traffic since we took the back way. I don't remember coming across or seeing anything strange, and I have no idea what happened to those 2 hours. Case notes for file 807. 2 hours of our time was stolen. I always love when time glitches have multiple people, because it makes the idea that it is a memory issue or some induced event by your own mind glitching out very unlikely, because it happened to you both. It could be some sort of environmental factor, but I don't know what kind of toxin would cause memory loss like that, where everything seems normal. It's a complete gap in memory. The only thing I've noticed that can do this is either hypnosis. There's sometimes some stories of people, they're approached by some woman or person, and then they just wake up later on in their room or in their bed. Sometimes things are stolen, but they have no memory at all. Their conscious perception is that they're there and then they're there. Nothing else in between. Certainly what happened in this case for you guys. And of course, the other option is aliens. Now sure, it's broad daylight, but aliens could abduct during the day. I think it's probably less likely to actually see them, because often aliens are visible from the lights on their ship. Now why they turn their lights on, I don't know. So is it some function of their drive capability? Perhaps. Otherwise it doesn't make any sense, unless they want to be seen. But back to this story. If you both were abducted, the obvious signs is markings on your skin that don't belong. Sometimes there are even objects inside your skin of metallic origin that isn't known to this world. Alloys that shouldn't exist, at least not by anything we've known in industry. It's always possible that this is some sort of government creation, maybe with technology from aliens, or maybe just everything is us, and we just have wild technology. Aliens are probably the most likely option, but also there's localized pockets of time distortion that does occur. Sometimes especially in cars for some reason, you move really far forward in space, and other times it affects time itself without messing with space. They're all interlinked, so just manipulating one without extreme gravity or speed is seemingly impossible outside of wormholes. So maybe there are wormholes all over the place that are somehow stable and we can't detect them. Maybe they pop in really shortly and then as soon as they're crossed into, they vanish. That would make some sense because they're not supposed to be stable at all. Case file number 808, written by Stina84. When fate is put to the test. My husband and I have been together for a long time, since we were 11, 38 now. I had decided since then he was the boy I was going to marry. I just knew in my bones I was meant to be with him. In our grade 5 romance, he gave me a tiny silver frame as a gift. It seemed antique and unique. I kept it. I didn't have a picture for it, but I kept it all these years. Cut to many years later. We had a child. Strangely enough, our child was born on our anniversary, unplanned. Anyways, I finally put the frame to use with a picture of our son. It sits on the desk at work. I started noticing something really strange. Occasionally, when my desk gets bogged up with paperwork or I'm shuffling things around, I sometimes accidentally knock the frame over. On those days when the frame gets knocked over, my son gets hurt. So far not badly hurt, but something happens to him. The first few times I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but it's happened at least 5 or 6 times now over the last few years. Just happened again today, which prompted me to write this. I knocked it over and I immediately picked up the phone to call my husband to check on them. Sure enough, my son was playing with one of those plasma electricity balls and ended up breaking the glass in his hands just minutes after I dropped the frame. Do I have a magical frame? Should I put a picture of Justin Trudeau in there and throw it off a building? Jokes aside, I just thought this was an interesting twist of fate. Case notes for file 808. When fate is put to the test. Okay, so a case of potentially the future affecting the past, where your son is hurt in the future, you didn't cause it, but from that potential future anyways, its tendrils reach back into the past in your moment, and then you're affected by it and it causes you to be nervous perhaps, and then you knock over the frame. You know, one possibility in this, because you're talking of just a few minutes, maybe it isn't a possible future but an actual future. One thing I've been thinking of is, maybe the future isn't written, but it is buffered. So our perception, we're making the choices, but our perception of when we make them is delayed by maybe 5 minutes or something. So we already made the choice and we're living through it now in a sort of a rewind replay snapshot, sort of like in a video game where you can have a replay of a match you played. So you were the one that made the choices, but maybe we're only consciously aware of the replay. And in these moments, we're not really making the choices as we experience them, we just made them before, and now we're going through a series of motions. It's a very interesting thought and would explain how we're able to, sometimes some people are able to predict the future. The only thing is, how far ahead is it buffered? Because some people are predicting years ahead, their own deaths through dreams. That's another thing entirely. But just a few minutes, I could see that. Case file number 809, written by Some Bloke Far Away, when a plane fails to load its colors. To give some context, I'm in Oxfordshire, UK, and earlier on today, whilst me and the family were driving home, I noticed an unusual plane. The reason it was unusual was because it was completely white, no logos, etc. It's worth me pointing out that I was the one driving. I wasn't able to get the greatest look. Anyway, the plane was kinda low, perhaps having just taken off or coming in to land. The strange part here was that the plane appeared to change color. To elaborate, the plane was white initially, which was unusual enough, but changed to a grey color. Normally I'd think nothing of it, however, as the plane was unusual in the first place, I had mentioned it to my partner and 5-year-old son who all saw the same thing. Some points to note. We did not see the plane physically change color. It happened in the few seconds when we were driving past some trees and bushes and the line of sight was obscured. However, the military grey plane which we saw, I'm pretty certain, was the same plane. This is due to the height and direction it was traveling. If it was two separate planes, they would have to be extremely close to one another. I'm a relatively skeptical person and have tried looking at this logically, but I'm stumped on an actual answer. It's been a sunny day here today, and I don't believe the color change could have been due to any lighting, given the differences between the colors, and there's no real change in the lighting. If we are in a simulation, then the easiest way to describe what we saw was a rendering glitch. The colors took a little too long to load. Again, this would have been something I'd have brushed off had I been the only one to witness it. Case notes for file 809, when a plane fails to load its colors. So there's two possibilities in my head. Of course, the simulation error, where the textures are simply not loading, including the color. Or it could be some sort of military experiment, and you do mention that it's probably a military plane, by no markings and the color being white or gray. And if it is something like that, it could be some sort of test to change the outer look and exterior color of the plane. And there would be a lot of applications for that, I imagine. It wouldn't be that hard. We have glass right now where an electrical charge through it will turn it translucent, and then you take the charge away and it's just normal glass. You see right through it. Could there be some way to alter the color of an object, of a surface? Why not? The color we perceive is simply based on how the structure of anything light bounces off of traps light. We perceive most things to be relatively smooth, but if you zoom in, everything is jagged in certain different ways, and the structure of that jaggedness or imperfection is how we perceive light bouncing back to us. It could make sense if there's some sort of fluid transition to the structure of an object or surface of it to change the perceived light that we receive. Yeah, I could see that. That probably is the most likely situation in my mind. Creepy File number 55, written by Dad on a OTB, an act of dangerous kindness. In 2015-2016, I moved to Florida from California to go to college. I was around 18 at the time. I was staying in a small studio by myself, pretty far from the university, but close enough to where my apartment was the hangout spot. To paint a picture of how it looked, it was in the shape of a rectangle, with only one window. So you walk in and it's the living area, then the kitchen, then the bathroom, with closets on the right side of the wall. One particular night, I had about 6 friends over at my apartment, so it was 4 guys and 3 girls total, including me. We were partaking in unsanctioned activities, drinking and smoking, but we were all under 21. So when I got a knock at my door, I thought it was a neighbor about to complain either about the smell or the noise. I checked the peephole and saw a lady whom I instantly recognized as a panhandler that's always at the corner street of my apartment complex. So I opened the door and asked her if I could help her with anything. She had a towel over her shoulder and said, "Hi, I've been going around door to door, but everyone keeps turning me away. I was wondering if I could please just take a shower. I promise I don't want anything else, I just want to clean myself." Any sane person would have said no and told her to keep it moving, but I was a dumb 18-year-old empath that was high as balls and panicking in the moment. So I said yes, and I walked her into my bathroom, told her how to turn on the water and where the soap was, and walked out. The look of terror on my friends' faces was priceless. All at once, they started asking why I had done that and if I realized how dangerous the situation could be. Was there someone waiting for her on the outside? Did she have a gun? Was she gonna rob us? One of them even went to the kitchen to grab all the knives and then hid them just in case she tried anything. And we were all so quiet, just anxiously waiting for her to finish showering. And when she was done and came out of the restroom, I walked her to the door. She said, "May God bless you." And I never saw her again. Not even at the corner. You could say what I did was stupid, but I know good karma will come for me one day. Case notes for the Creepy File number 55. A dangerous act of kindness. So yeah, indeed, most people would say that this is dangerous and foolish, and I think in most cases it is. I've been homeless before, a long time ago, well over a decade, when I was in Florida. Had to get away from home, long story, but anyways, I depended on the kindness of strangers, and I tried not to ask for much. It was kind of obvious I was just some random tourist with a giant backpack on my back. Remember the first time I got to Florida, first 2 days, I was sleeping on the beach, slept in, somehow, and the sun destroyed my skin. I was peeling off skin like I was a lizard shedding their skin. It was quite an ordeal. But yeah, I depend on the kindness of others to eat. A lot of fast food then. When you're homeless, being clean is a complete luxury. So I thank you for this person, on this person's behalf. And I'm glad that they didn't abuse your kindness.